What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for coming back and joining me for season 4 of the Aston Villa rebuild. Now, if you've been with me for the past couple of seasons, you would have seen we had slowly but surely been creeping our way into contention in the Premier League, finishing in second place in season 2 before finally getting our hands on that trophy in season 3. Today I have jumped to the end of season 4 and we're going to show you everything that has happened on the way to us trying to defend our Premier League title and kick on in European competition. Let's kick off everything that has happened in season 4 by beginning with the transfer business. Now, as always, we have had players both leave and arrive at the club, and in England the transfer window is done in 2 parts in the summer. So the first part is from the 9th of June. You can sign domestic players and add them to your squad straight away. Then we will have the part where the international players can come and join. That is from the 1st of July, and of course we will recap everything that's happened in the winter transfer window too. Now, coming off the back of season 3, we had a pretty strong squad. We were able to win the Premier League, so obviously we didn't have to do too much to the squad. However, there were a few things that were enforced upon us that meant that we did actually have to have a little bit of an overhaul in some areas of the team. So let's start off by working our way through the players that left in the summer of 2025. Now, the first 2 players that left the club were Danny Ings. He went to Norwich for £7.5 million. 33 years old now. I thought it represented quite good value for where we were at. We were in the market for another striker, and we will get to that in just a second and show you exactly who we replaced him with. But he ended up going to Norwich for £105,000 per week. And obviously he'd done really well for Villa in the time that we were at the club. He was one of the leading goal scorers and played really well in the tactic we were using. But unfortunately for him, his time at the club came to an end with him going to Norwich. And the next player to leave was Ezri Konsa. He went to Brighton for £4.6 million plus a part exchange player, and we will show you him in just a second too. He's another one, 28 years old. I felt we could probably upgrade at the position, and we went out and bought a better player. Plus we received a player that is either going to be a hit or a miss at the club. We can either try and develop the player. He's a quite high profile player, former wonder kid, or we could move him on if it doesn't really work out. So those were the 2 players that left the club in this part of the window. Let's move on over here to the transfers that have come in, and we start off with the big one. It's Darwin Núñez. He's the player that has come in to replace Danny Ings. As you can see, he's a fantastic footballer. Forget about the real world and the real life. It doesn't really matter about what's going on for Liverpool at the moment. Unfortunately for him, he actually got sold to Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich only paying a paltry amount for him, but we did go and pick him up. We have plugged him in, and I can tell you what, he's really head and shoulders above anything we have had in the position at the club. He did cost a hefty price tag of £46 million, but I do think it is worth every single penny of the investment. You can just see he's a fantastic player, and he also fits in with our system perfectly. And then the second player that came in was the part exchange player, and it's Billy Gilmour. An interesting player, really had a big bright future when he was at Chelsea, then moved on to Brighton. Obviously Graham Potter bought him and then kind of swapped places with him, went to Chelsea. In real life it hasn't worked out for him. In the game it's kind of stalled for him too. He's an okay player, hasn't really developed on, but fingers crossed we pick him up. He's still only 24 years old. Might be able to just unplug that potential a little bit. Just plays a deep line playmaker, so will fit into the team quite well. Has a various amount of positions that he can also slot into, so hopefully he's a player that is going to be useful at the club. As I said, if it doesn't work out for him here, we can always move him on and try and make a bit of money back in the end anyway. So let's move on to the second part then. And as I said, in England we are now in the section that is the 1st of July onwards, plus the winter transfer window, which is the whole of January. So a few other players left the club. We did lose Fernando. This one wasn't really my choice. It was something that was enforced upon the club. There was a transfer clause in the contract that he signed when he first signed for the club. Completely forgot it was there, if I'm perfectly honest. Man City came along and activated it, paying £56 million for the player. Obviously didn't want to lose him, 27 years old. He'd been a real star at the club since we had signed him. But maybe there's silver linings to all the clouds, because we did get quite a lot of money. We made a hefty profit for the original outlay that we put out. So I'm not too concerned that he has left the club, because I do think we can replace him. Plus the squad, as I said, was pretty decent anyway, so we do have a number of players who can play in that position. The next player to leave was Ludvig Augustinsson. He is a player that at the start of the game is on loan, and then we turn that into a permanent deal, I believe for around £3.5 million. So to see us get £10 million back for the player is pretty decent money. He's 32 years old, so he's never going to be a player who was a long-term thing at the club, probably winding his career down a little bit. So when £10 million comes in for him, you may as well take that and see if you can get a better model further down the line. The next player to leave was Bobby Clark, a player who we picked up from Liverpool, one that had quite a lot of potential, as scouts thought. Managed to flip him for not too much more money. I think we paid a couple of £1 million for him. We've sold him for 4.7, rising to 5.75, so a decent amount of money in the end. Not a player that's going to go and be a world beater, I don't think, at Wolves, but they came along, offered the money, we decided to take that one. The next one to leave was Stahina Pavlovic. He's a player that we bought along the way. Got a little bit disillusioned by not being able to get past the likes of Stefan de Vrij and Quarter at the back in the defence, so he asked to leave the club. We didn't stand in his way. We thought we'd been here for a couple of seasons, probably developed him as much as we can and allowed him to move on. The next player to leave was Tim Eregbonam. He has gone to Bristol City on a loan. Travis Patterson ended up at Sheffield United for $39,500, and then Diego Carlos has gone to Zenit St Petersburg for £1.5 million. Probably could have held out for a little bit more money, but I do believe Diego Carlos's contract started to wind down, so when that bid come in, it just really made sense to take it. So the only other player that we managed to sign, and it was in July, we did not do any business in January, was Daniel Marlon. He is a player that has been around a little bit. Let's have a full look at his history. You can see that he has played for Ajax, then went to Arsenal, didn't really cut it there, went to PSV, then got a move to Borussia Dortmund for £26 million in real life. We ended up paying £29.5 million to bring him to the club. He's a player that we like, can play in various positions, left, right, through the centre, can also play as a striker, has decent pace, acceleration, also has finishing, first touch and dribbling. So he's a player that I really like, and I think he's one that can enhance the team. So that was all the business that we did. If you see, transfers in £29.5 million after July, and then transfers out £81 million, so we recouped quite a lot of the money. Finances at Villa are very strange. They seem to be hemorrhaging money all over the place. Kind of, you get that money that you get from winning the league and getting in the Champions League, you spend some of it, they keep offering you money despite being in the red. It really is about being in control at Aston Villa. You have to rein it in a little bit, because if the finances get off the chart and you don't qualify for the Champions League, you are really, really going to be in trouble. Looking at our transfer business and moving across to the competitions tab, you can see that we absolutely got it spot on. Certainly in terms of the Premier League, we have once again won the Premier League, so that's 2 years in a row now. We have won the league by 3 points, this time from Manchester City. In terms of the Champions League, we still have work to do there. We're knocked out in the round of 16 by Real Madrid. In the FA Cup, we got to the final, unfortunately couldn't get over the line and win the competition. We finished as runners up there. We were knocked out in the 4th round by Arsenal in the Carabao Cup, and we were also runner up in the Community Shield. Before breaking down our Premier League success and showing you all the other competitions, as always, we're going to have a quick run through the finances tab. As I said, Aston Villa's finances are a little bit strange. As you can see in the top left-hand corner, we have £51.8 million in the bank, but we do have £71.5 million available to us as a transfer budget. If you look at that overall balance and the orange line at the top there, you can see that every single season we've spent money, we have dropped off. Some seasons, I mean, there, look, May or April 2024, we were down to £80 million in debt. We then obviously rise back out of it when we win a competition like the Premier League and we get as far as we can in the Champions League. But then it drops right off again to April 2025. Then we pull ourselves back out, and then April 2026, and then we pull ourselves back out. It's something I've really had to have a look at and see, can we avoid this constant dip and then peak and then dip and then peak? I'd rather try and leave the club in a better state than we found it at the end of the save. So if it means that we've got to get our squad to a position where we don't need as many players to be brought in to compete for the Premier League, it might take a season of not having so much transfer business, and that certainly contributed to what happened in the winter transfer window when we were signing in season 4. As I said, we do have 51 million in the bank, 71 as a transfer budget. We also have £3.6 million wage budget. We are spending 3.1 million of that, so we have £500,000 available if we were to go out and sign players for next season. Up next, we're going to have a little look at the club vision tab. You can see our job security is secure. The actionable objectives: work within the wage budget on course, sign players to sell for a profit. Now, we have started to do that really already. There are a few players that have already came in and gone out during the save, and I think we're pretty much making money off all of them. Maybe we've had 1 or 2 losses, but the main ones, the ones that we are looking to buy to sell for a profit, are certainly making a profit in the long term. Informational objectives: so they want maximum 1-year contracts for over 34s, maximum 2-year contracts for over 32s, maximum 3-year contracts for over 30s, minimum 4-year contracts for first team players, and they are looking to build a new stadium, and that is in progress. In the 5-year plan, they want to be competitive in the Champions League, and their ambition is to qualify for the Europa League in the next season. Looking at a bit of feedback then from the board, you can see it's compiled by Christian Perslow, who is the chairperson. They give us a B+. The board are pleased with our overall leadership of the team. Last season's success remain fresh in the memories of the appraisal of your current performance takes that into account. So in terms of the board cultures, one is to play entertaining football. They're delighted. Do not sign players over the age of 28. Delighted. Sign players under the age of 23 for the first team. Satisfied. I think we've actually done a bit better than that. I think that's quite harsh. Of the players that we did sign, there were a fair few of them that were of the age to compile younger players in the first team. I know we did sign Nunes and Malin, but we did need a bit of experience to go along with the players that we were signing. So yeah, a bit of give and take in that one. Play high tempo pressing football, they're delighted. Play attacking football, they are pleased. Notable highlights: emphatic 5-0 win against Watford, 2-1 Premier League victory against Chelsea, 3-2 Premier League triumph against Brighton. Disappointed about a 2-0 defeat against Tottenham. Concerned about the 4-2 FA Cup final defeat against Manchester City. So yeah, I think all of those are pretty justified. We did lose to Tottenham quite heavily, and then we did lose in the FA Cup final, so no real complaints there. In terms of supporters, a B+. Overall, the supporters are pleased with the job that we are doing. Play attacking football, they are pleased. Play entertaining football, delighted. Play high tempo pressing football, delighted. Get the better of rivals Birmingham if we happen to play them. Finish above Wolves in the league, they are delighted. Finish above West Brom in the league, reserving judgment. And the fans only want us to qualify for the Europa Conference League, so we're doing much better than what they are expecting. Their notable highlights: pleased with the 5-0 win against Watford, pleased with the 2-1 victory against Chelsea, pleased with the 3-2 Premier League triumph against Brighton. They were disappointed about the 2-0 defeat against Tottenham, similar to the board. Disappointed with Calimundo's recent performances, so was I a little bit, which was why we went and bought Darwin Nunes. And they were disappointed with Victor Nelson's recent performances too. So he's another one. I think he's at the stage where he needs a contract renewal, or he has asked for a new contract. We kind of held off, didn't want to give it to him at first, which meant that his performances have dipped a little bit. It's something that we are going to look to remedy for the final season. So back to the competitions tab then, let's break this down in a little bit more detail. So the Premier League, you can see that we have won once again. That is now 2 in a row, and we have made it a double of Premier League wins. We won the league by 3 points from Manchester City, and we were 7 points clear of Arsenal. You had Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool and Tottenham in 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Let's start off though by having a little look at the Champions League. Obviously slightly different to how it is now. So in terms of the league phase, let's have a little look at that. So we finished 13th in the league phase, played 8, we won 4, we drew 2, we lost 2. We had a 9-goal difference with 14 points. Daniel Malin actually getting the highest average rating there with a 7.85, which is quite interesting. Coming out of their knockout playoff round, we beat Freiburg 7-0 on aggregate, and then that led us to the round of 16, where we faced off against Real Madrid and got absolutely thumped ourselves. So yeah, we might have a good domestic squad, but certainly European football is something we are going to need to look at. Yeah, not very good when you're getting thumped 8-0 by Real Madrid. Although it is Real Madrid, so it's progress that we're even playing them, I suppose. If we go into the FA Cup, you already know the result of that. We lost 4-2 to Manchester City in the final. If we break down the stages where we went through, so Villa beat Cardiff 4-2 in the third round. We then went on to play against Ipswich, winning 4-0 in the fourth round. In the fifth round, we played against West Brom. We beat them 4-1, which is obviously what made the board happy. Quarterfinals, we beat Stoke 2-0. And then in the semi-finals, we brushed aside Tottenham 2-0 to face off against Manchester City. And once again for Aston Villa, that is the third time in a row, I believe, that they have now been to the FA Cup final and finished runners-up. But it is progress for us as a team, because it means that we are getting further into competitions, and it means that we are at least putting up a fight against some of the teams that are winning these types of competitions. The Carabao Cup, we were knocked out in the fourth round by Arsenal, and then in the Community Shield, we lost to Manchester City by the same scoreline as the FA Cup final in the opening game of the season. If we look at the Premier League then, go to the Stages tab and show you how we got on. So we played 38 games, we won 27 of those. We only drew 2 games across the season, which is not bad, but we did lose 9. We scored 85 goals. Darwin Núñez chipped in with a lot of those. We did concede 46, which is one of the reasons why some of the defenders were moved on. We had a goal difference of 39, and we had 83 points. As I said, that's 3 points ahead of Manchester City, 7 ahead of Arsenal and Chelsea, and then even further ahead of both Manchester United and Liverpool. If we go back to the profile and show you then, Darwin Núñez finishing top goal scorer in the Premier League with 38 goals. Quite impressive for his first season back in English football. He had a 7.59 average rating also. Florian Wirtz getting 14 assists is quite impressive. Darwin Núñez getting 8 Player of the Match awards. We had some disciplinary issues. It's something that has been highlighted certainly in tactic testing videos. You might have to tell your players to ease off a little bit, because it does seem that some tactics just trigger absolute mentalists. And you can see that Cash has got 15 yellow cards, Dini's got 15 yellow cards, and Danilo got 13 yellow cards across the season. So all in all, a fantastic season to win another Premier League. As I said, that is 2 in a row now. Champions League, highly disappointing. FA Cup to get to the final is impressive, but we wanted to go one step further. Carabao Cup's not really something I'm too interested in unless we get to the latter stages, and the Community Shield doesn't really count for much. But 2 Premier Leagues on the bounce. As always, we're going to round out this season review by having a little look at our starting 11. We're going to go through the squad planner and view 2 different versions of our best 11 at the club, going through the one where we are looking at our strengths and weaknesses before moving on to the one from our assistant manager. And then we can also try and identify some of the areas that we might need to improve to pick up that Champions League performance for season 5. But kicking off with this version of the best 11, in the squad planner you can see that our best 11 is Emi Martinez in goal, Luca Dean, Nelson, Ostigard and Matty Cash at the back. Then it's Danilo, Romero, Abada in the midfield 3, with Cole Palmer, Florian Wirtz supporting Darwin Núñez, and Darwin getting our star player in the squad too. So looking at some of these strengths and weaknesses then, try and identify where we could try and improve. Strengths, long shots. Top goal scorer Darwin Núñez is 38 strikes, lead everybody in the competition. Wage budget, plenty of money there, £500,000 available. Youth prospects, we have Mark Hussey, Stefan Aisht and Denzel Amidou at the club. Finishing, the team in general are impressive at taking chances when presented to them. Through balls, defensive depth, midfield depth, defence, midfield, midfield. So picking up on our strengths, really, you can see we have an established back four. Danilo is sound in the middle. Abada came into the club as a out-and-out winger, but he has come back in position to play in that right-hand side of the pitch. Romero slotted in nicely, and you've got Cole Palmer and Florian Wirtz, two young guns who really are starting to develop, and then Darwin Núñez at the top of the pitch. Looking at the weaknesses, marking, questions about the squad's marking, communication, throwing from the goalkeeper, leadership, clear lack of leadership in the team, so something that might need addressing. However, we have got players that I think can step up, so maybe it's time to look at who is captain and who could be a real leader in the club. Aggression, lack of competitive aggression, could do with more than Emi Martinez able to play in goal. Now, we do have a few other goalkeepers at the club, none of them at the level of Martinez, but who really wants competition for your goalkeeper when you've got one of the best in the world? Tackling, command of area, positioning, reflexes, teamwork. So it seems to just think that Emi Martinez might not be the best goalkeeper in the world. FIFA and the World Cup seem to disagree with that, but I suppose this was before that at all happened. Maybe in the winter update of the game, Emi Martinez will become the goalkeeper that he is in real life. If we then go on to the best 11, so this is Pablo Villa, who is our assistant manager, and he's going to pick Emi Martinez, Luca Dean, Nelson, Ostigard, Matty Cash, Danilo, Luca Romero, Lyle Abada, Florian Wirtz, Cole Palmer, and Darwin Núñez up top. And according to our assistant manager, Luca Dean is actually our star player, so we might have to look at seeing if he could be a leader in the team, maybe shifting the armband onto him. If not, I think Danilo is a standout player. He's absolutely essential for everything that we do. Did bring him in quite young, and even in the short space of time that he's been at the club, he's fantastically developed into a player who could just really boss a midfield from that DLP position. Looking at the youngsters at the club then, so our goalkeeper would be Moore, Eden Allard, Alex Bohia, Kerr Smith, Aisht, Dunleavy, Binns, Asplin Rowley, Alfie Devine, Ibrahimovic, and Rory Wilson up top. So we have plenty of depth in terms of the kids. Looking at the star ratings against some of these youngsters, though, it doesn't look like all of them would make the cut. So we might need to invest a little bit into the youth side of things. However, with just one season left of the save, I'm not too sure if that's the way to go about it. Maybe it's just one of those where we just go and pick up the very best player that we can to try and have an assault on the Champions League. But all in all, fantastic season. Premier League champions once again, FA Cup finalists. We are moving the club in the right direction. We now have money available to us, even though the finances are a little bit all over the place. We're going to try and make sure that we do leave the club in a much better position than when we took over. Right, if you're still with me at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you don't mind hitting the like and subscribe button, everybody who has taken the time to do that across the past month, I really do appreciate it. It's helped the channel to grow so much. I really do appreciate it, more than I can tell you. It really has helped to get these videos out to other people, and some of the feedback and the comments from people who are watching the videos, it really is blowing me away. Before you go, don't forget, on the channel I also have tactics videos. There are Wonder Kids tips, tutorials, hints, let's plays. There is something for everybody here on the channel. But for this one, I'm going to wrap it there. A big thank you for watching. Don't forget to come back and check out the season finale of the Aston Villa rebuild.